right, Mr. President, we are streaming live on YouTube now.
Roger that. Thank you. I see Commissioner Black's here.
I'm here.
Commissioner Shin. Commissioner Kutz, I believe, is behind that nice picture. Tom, have you heard from Commissioner Holtzman today or prior?
No, my apologies. I didn't get around to calling her today to see if she was going to be on.
I tried reaching her over the weekend several times, and I left a message once or twice, actually both times. So I haven't heard back from her. We'll give Commissioner Holtzman the benefit of the doubt and give another minute or so after the clock strikes 6.
Checking all my devices to see if she's tried to contact me. I do not see anything.
Hello. Hello. Good. No, I'm working at it, and honestly, I'm in a Zoom meeting right now, so you're welcome to call back tomorrow if you like. Yeah, that's what I figured.
All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm calling to this Lower Allen Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting to order of March 8th, 2021. Proof of publication is available upon request for your review. My name is Dean Vallone. I'm the president of the Board of Commissioners, and this evening we have our commissioners that I know are in attendance is Commissioner Ed Black, Commissioner Thomas Kutz, Commissioner Rick Shin, and myself. And I do believe, for the record, Ms. Secretary, Commissioner Holtzman is absent, and I have not heard from her, but if she does come in, I'm sure the manager will indicate that at that time, and you can make note. Thank you.
Okay.
We begin our meetings, ladies and gentlemen, with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. So we pray this day to give thanks for all the many blessings bestowed upon our township. Watch over us who are entrusted with the administration of this township. Create in us the earnest desire to serve faithfully and permit us to experience the joys of noble service completed for our residents. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and from those who serve. Help us to use every willing service and every effort put forth for good government. Heavenly Father, we ask your guidance to help us as commissioners to make the right decisions. And we ask that you aid our staff as they perform the daily tasks of running our township. And we request that you be by our first responders as they protect our residents and see that they return home safe at the end of each day. In your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I believe there will be a flag on the screen if you don't have one in your home. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of
United
America,
States of America,
Republic for which it
and to the
stands,
republic
with
for which it stands,
under God,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with justice for all.
liberty, and justice
for all.
Again, welcome everybody. For those residents that are joining us, as you know, if you've joined us before and if you haven't, there will be opportunities throughout our agenda, specifically a couple of times where you can participate in the agenda or with any business pertinent to the township. And those items will come up pretty quickly on the agenda. Looks like we also have some guests here this evening that will be making a presentation in just a bit, I believe from the district attorney's office. And that's about it. So we'll get started with a bid opening on our agenda, which is number 4 of the RTU2 replacement project. I believe you'll take the lead on this for now, Mr. Manager.
Yes, I will. Actually, I have Mr. Flint in here with me to assist with the opening and searching through the documents. So ready to go.
All right.
First one. I'm going to open them on camera so everybody knows we're on the up and up.
First one is from Sheet Metal Specialist, LLC.
Well, that's hard to hear, Tom.
Sheet
Will you
Metal
repeat that?
Specialists, LLC.
Thank you.
Is it?
I apologize, Tom. One more time for me,
I
please.
can't hear it either.
Sheet Metal Specialists, LLC.
Sheet Metal Specialist LLC. Got it.
This is a bid bond.
There is a bid bond.
Bid amount is $111,000, $111,300.
Please.
$111,300 and no cents.
Got it. So I got that down as Sheet Metal LLC. A bid bond is included, and the amount of the bid is $111,300 and 0 cents.
Yes.
Got it.
Second bid is from Fry Lutz Corporation,
That's Fry Lutz, F-R-Y,
F-R-E-Y.
F-R-E-Y, L-U-T-Z. Fry Lutz.
Bid bond. And the amount is $99,970.
$99,970.
There was a bid bond, you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fry Lutz, $99,970 with a bid bond.
Third bid is from W.C. Eschenauer, S-H-N-A-U-R.
That's W.C. Eschenauer, the third bid.
Thank you.
There's a bid bond.
There is a bid bond.
Amount is $104,200.
$104,200, no cents.
Got it. W.C. Eschenauer, $104,200, no cents with a bid bond.
Correct.
Fourth bid is from Spots Brothers, S-P-O-T-T-S.
S-P-O-T-T-S Brothers.
The bid bond
There is a bid bond.
amount is $114,000.
$114,000 even, no cents.
Okay, Spots Brothers, S-P-O-T-T-S Brothers, $114,000, no cents with a bid bond.
Yes.
That is the extent of the bids received.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the 4 bids. The manager will see that our solicitor gets those. And we'll move on. On our agenda this evening, under number 5, if you're following our agenda, we do have a presentation by Chief Hassinger. Forgive me if I pronounce that incorrectly. Ken Hassinger is here from the Cumberland County Drug Task Force, and I believe we have some officials also from the Cumberland County Drug Task Force, or Cumberland County DA's office with us, Daniel Tarvin and Michelle Siebert and Ken Hassinger, right? All right. And Ken, are you going to take the lead on this presentation?
That's correct. And thank you for introducing the 2 other representatives. I just wanted to give you an overview. I know several years ago we came in and did an in-house presentation during the executive session. But what we did, obviously COVID's changed some of that and how everybody works. But we did meet with the chiefs of police of the full-time departments that are participating and provided them with our yearly statistics, which I can make available to any of the supervisors or any personnel that would want that. But basically, like everything else, COVID hit us, but it didn't knock us down. We had a significant year. And what's of note, and has really changed over the last 2 years, our primary area right now, what we would call hotspots, is your particular area and surrounding area on the West Shore. Anywhere from Manolo over to Lower Allen Township, which includes Mechanicsburg and the West Shore. We've made a significant concentration there. Some of that has to do with the availability of confidential informants. Others is because that's where our primary officers full-time are located. And because that's their home jurisdiction, they have a better opportunity to cultivate the informants, and it's easier for them to work within that area. So this past year, the vast majority of the 75 new cases we opened, probably close to 85% of them, if not 90, have been either in Lower Allen or right in that surrounding area that I just described. Of note, I know that Chief Hall had the agreement that Jamie Keating entered into years ago in speaking with Mr. Ebert. Obviously, he's going to adhere. He wants to continue that cooperative relationship, but you would notice a difference in the amount. That is a temporary amount, and I speak on behalf of Michelle, and Dan can jump in, that Mr. Ebert has committed to making that whole to what we would normally do. And the reason it was that way, significantly over the last year, we had a transformation. We had a move to a new building, which required us to concentrate on 1.9 tons of evidence that we were able to destroy, and 1,250 that we had to redocument. So that slowed us down. But more importantly, with the closures of the court system, we were able, and some of you that were on before, and I apologize, I don't remember, we had a backlog on our asset forfeiture department where we weren't able to keep up year in, year out to build that asset account up. We took a concentrated effort this year with the help of Dan Tarvin when he was assigned to us full time to wipe out that backlog. But it created a second problem, because when COVID came, we're now having trouble getting caught up on services, asset forfeitures. So in essence, we have a significant amount of asset forfeiture that's going through the court system, but has been delayed, which then dwindled our account down, at least initially right now, to be able to cut out the checks to the full-time departments as a portion of a reimbursement. But, and Michelle and Dan are here as witness. Mr. Ebert, like he told Dave, the chief, he anticipates as we start moving these forfeitures through, freeing up that and being able to do a second reimbursement during this calendar year, hopefully back to you guys, and then go back to our normal process. Of significant, and what I say when you look at asset forfeiture, we spend an inordinate amount of time, 4 officers, on several large investigations. The first one was a search warrant that involved the marijuana operation that encompassed the entire West Shore. That included trackers, it included phone records, it included hours and hundreds of hours of surveillance, but it significantly resulted in a seizure in excess of $160,000. And we anticipate moving forward with that in the civil process once we can get through the criminal part. And that's been delayed, of course, because of COVID. The other was a larger scale cocaine group. And when I say a group of about 3 to 4 people, and I know we're public, so I'm kind of tapering it back, that was Lower Allen Township. We were able to go in and execute the search warrant there, seize a significant amount of cocaine, but more importantly, weapons also that were in the apartment complex. That's just one of many that we throughout Lower Allen or on those borders. Having said that, I would like to give Dan Tarvin or Michelle an opportunity if they want to address anything I just said, and then I'm open for questions. Dan?
Thank you, Kenny. I basically echo with what Chief Hassinger just said. We are trying our best to move these forfeitures through the court system, which obviously leads to a trickle down. As some of you may be familiar, we really can't resolve a lot of those until the criminal case is over because of a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, yada, yada. So we are diligently working on that. The courts are beginning to reopen to in-person hearings. We anticipate that will continue to happen throughout the spring and summer. My goal is, as we go through this year, certainly by the end of the year, we have most of our outstanding forfeitures that are currently pending are finished, including the big one that Chief Hassinger alluded to. That was in excess of $160,000 seized as a result of a large marijuana distribution operation, which had some roots in Lower Allen Township. So I don't have too terribly much else to add. I just echo what he's stated about just the importance of Lower Allen Township and the fact that we're able to do a lot of work in places that the task force does not have that full-time officer, just doesn't have quite the amount of time and energy we're able to spend. So it is really important, the work that's been done with Lower Allen.
And before I turn it over to Michelle, I neglected. Michelle is one of the chief deputies, so she has been a part of the process in her capacity throughout. Michelle, if you have a moment, you've met with Skip. If you could echo, the intentions of the task force in the DA's office with Lower Allen and our other full-time partners.
Yeah, so I'm the first assistant district attorney, and it's Michelle Seibert. So I've been in the office since 1999, and we've had multiple discussions with Skip, and I know we had some of the chiefs in. And everything Kenny and Dan are telling you is coming from Skip. And we do, you're Troy McNair, right, Kenny? Troy is, he's
Yes.
extraordinary. Yes. I worked with him for years, and it would be a huge loss to us if we did not have Troy. And he represents Lower Allen very well. So everything that they've talked about, money, the forfeitures, courts, I don't even know if we're opening for March trial term. We're preparing for March. But if we can't get these defendants in and give them the right to a jury trial, the forfeiture case just stays stagnant. I don't know if you have any questions for any of us.
Well, I have some. I'm just going to open it up to the commissioners. First of all, I apologize, Michelle, for pronouncing your name incorrectly. I should have known better. We've met before. Michelle Seibert, excuse me. But I guess my question is for either of the three of you, probably for Ken. Chief, I'm just wondering, could you just give a broader picture of the makeup of the task force and, what municipalities are participating, how many perhaps, and just a broad picture of the makeup of it. I wasn't on the board when that original plan came forth. I came on shortly thereafter, and quite honestly, I came on to a lot of dissension regarding that. And I'm not the only one. There's two of us. I know Commissioner Kutz wasn't here either at the time. So I think it would be helpful just to give a quick overview of the task force itself, if you don't mind.
We're addressing that to me too, because you had cut out. Is that correct?
Yeah, I addressed, to you. Mhm.
Okay, you had cut out. Sure. The initial task force was set up with 5 municipalities providing a full-time officer. There was an agreement that I was not a part of early on, that as they looked to asset forfeiture and the participation with each municipality after operating expenses, the district attorney's office under, at the time, Dave Freed and Jamie Keating, were going to reimburse that year's portion as much as they could that was forfeited. And there's two distinct ways of looking at this. There's forfeited during the given year. So let's say, for example, last year in 2020, we forfeited 250,000. And I'm using a broad figure. That has not gone through the final disposition. So that's money that's not being able to be allocated. So we're always going to be about a year to 2 years running behind. Some years can be significantly higher and some years can be lower. And that's really truly based upon what drugs impacting the community. And I'll give you an example. Heroin typically does not result in asset forfeitures of any significant level. When you look at cocaine and marijuana, the numbers start to jump up, especially with marijuana, typically cash seizures. Right now, we are down 2 officers. Shippensburg hired a new chief, and the officer that was full-time was a promoted officer, and he went back to the road. So we're in negotiations back with them to secure a full-time officer to the task force for our southernmost part of the county. Hampton Township also, for only reason of promotion, brought their officer off and put him back on the street. Now, it's my understanding, and I don't want to speak for Hampton Township, but it's my understanding that they are considering, at least the chief is amenable to bringing back a full-time representative to that particular township. And the last one was Silver Spring, and Silver Spring took a promotion also. And at that point, that officer has not been replaced to date. So that leaves us with the East Pennsboro Department, a Lower Allen Department officer, and a Mechanicsburg on a full-time basis. On a part-time basis, where we have 12 other officers. But I think in the past presentations and having served 35 years in the drug world, either with the state police or with the county, the task force can't operate on part-time officers. The time constraints with the family, with obligations, work obligations, and the sheer time that it takes to do a successful investigation, it just can't happen. We would have never been able to do the 2 investigations that I highlighted with part-time officers to the success that we actually got. Troy, your officer, to us was so valuable. Within our own structure, he was moved from a detective position to a lieutenant's position because of his administrative and his supervision skills in the field. Troy, your officer, goes out on, I don't want to say every incident, but 9 out of 10, he is either in a supervisory role or he's picking up the cases himself. The other significant note that we've seen within your general jurisdiction in your area is we've seen a significant increase in overdose deaths related to heroin and fentanyl ingestion. The task force right now is running front lead for the 3 departments that are full-time on all those investigations, freeing up the criminal investigation division in the particular municipalities. So our hope is, in a perfect world, and I don't think we need to be perfect, as we start to see this resurgence of the court system opening up and this backlog, and when I say backlog, there's probably close to 250 cases of asset forfeiture that were sitting in the wind that we were able to get to petition, but haven't been able to get out to service yet because of the COVID restrictions. When that starts to open up, it starts to open up our sharing with the municipalities a heck of a lot more than what you're seeing at this particular point. I think it was 25,000 one year, 20,000 the next. I think 15 at this point with Mr. Ebert, with us representing Mr. Ebert, that he's going to make you whole again, at least to what we did in the previous years. And if we can do better, he's committed to doing better. And I mean, I wouldn't sit here and tell you he wasn't, but that's kind of where we're at now. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. Commissioners, I know that you probably have a lot of questions. So just hop in as you'd like.
Mr. President, I have a couple questions.
Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you. Before I address the drug task force folks, and thank you for being here, can can someone on staff tell me, I believe, what do we get, 30,000 2 years ago? Is that the correct figure? And what's our financial output for Detective McNair to be detailed?
It was, I think it was 25,000, Commissioner, previously. And as Chief Hassinger just mentioned, it was 15,000 that we just got within the last 3 weeks. So, and so I think they're looking at what the output is the officer's salary. And I don't off the top of my head know what that
Do you have a
exactly is.
ballpark, Director?
Leon, would you know at this point? He's what in the
Director
Salary.
Grove, if you have any idea, feel free to jump in there too.
Salary and benefits is about $185,000.
All right. So I guess first let me say, Chief, thank you for being here, and from the DA's office, folks, thank you for being here. We appreciate what you do. I agree the drug task force is vital. I deal with it in Dauphin County quite a bit, and I read all those reports coming from the drug task force, so I know how many arrests you're responsible for. I am 100% in support of the program and would definitely support Detective McNair remaining detailed. However, here's my concern, is that it's costing our taxpayers $170,000 to have him detailed there. And right now we're just not seeing the money on the table coming back to us that we'd like to see to make worth it. Before I came on the board, this board voted for a tax increase 2 years ago and opted to keep Detective McNair detailed without raising tax and opting for a tax increase rather than pulling him back and saving that money there. I'd like to say that would happen in the future, but I don't believe we're heading for a tax increase, at least while I'm on the board. So my concern is the money is nice, but it's not nearly. I mean, there are 4 first-class townships in the county right now. You have 2 of them represented. I understand there's some drug investigations in Lower Allen, but my concern is that the other municipalities need to start pulling their weight on the task force. And for me, the financial kickback, I mean, is there anything more we can expect if you're bringing in enough? You know, I understand you have operating costs, but for us, if $185,000 is our output, you know, 15,000 doesn't even put a dent in it. So is there, and I know you said the DA is committed to providing more when possible, but just kind of leaving that door open and not knowing what to expect. It's a lot for us right now to have that output on our books without seeing the money coming back to us. So are any of you able to speak to perhaps being able to make us whole? Because we've got a long way to go. And I know the other townships are, you know, skating out of it and getting the benefit of the task force without buying into it. So is there anything that can happen to make sure that Lower Allen taxpayers get the bang for their buck when other townships, municipalities seem to be getting the benefit of it without buying into it as much as we are?
Michelle, do you want to start?
So in terms of, oh, sorry, I feel like I'm kickback. I'm in my car, sorry. In terms of full reimbursement, that will never happen. I think in past, if I could be wrong, the most we've contributed is $30,000. So I know we were thinking 15 now, and when those other forfeitures start to come to fruition, we were looking at between 25 and 30,000. I don't know how you motivate other townships to contribute. An officer, I know Kenny has been working with them. You also have influence. So if you could talk to your, commissioners in other jurisdictions or chiefs in other jurisdictions. But in terms of being like, so I guess reimbursed, we will never be able to pay you what Troy's value is as a police officer.
Is
Mr. President, I happen to be one of the board members that reviewed this when Jamie and Commissioner Mr. Freed came through, and I don't think we ever expected to cover the full benefit, full benefit of the task force officer. I would agree that I was looking at perhaps I thought 30,000 was a little low. I thought we were a little higher early on. But I think I'm potentially thinking a little bit like my colleague, and I guess I would ask, what does what are your anticipation with respect to those townships similar to Lower Allen that had full-time officers and now don't? Did they give you any indication as to what your waiting period is until they come up to the table again?
I'm going to backtrack here and try to answer both at the same time. It was my belief and my understanding that last year, prior to COVID, we were going to go on the road and visit the various municipalities, including those municipalities that do not have a municipal police department or covered by the state police. In the past years prior to COVID, townships, for example, like South Middleton, cut a check for $30,000 to us as part of their donation in helping to assist the task force. Some of the smaller townships in the lower part of the county were $5,000, and I suspect that's probably what they could afford. And I mean, we were grateful for that. So as we start to lift the restrictions, in a perfect world, and I think we can get there, we do have to have more buy-in. In fact, we discussed meeting with the county commissioners and seeing where the counties buy in as a whole, because it is a county problem. It's not just a Lower Allen problem. And I'm never going to say it's not, there's no fence around Lower Allen that says stay out, and they stay out. We're hanging on by our shoestrings. Now, when we start to look at the finances and going back, and I believe I'm seeing, is this Mr. Kurtz? I can't read, even with my readers on. I can see Thomas, but that's the last I can see. Right. The reality of this is what we've given to you in the past, and I'll be very brief, was always up front, because we were lagged so far behind in the asset forfeitures. We could see assets worth, say, $350,000, but we could never cut the check for that because it had not gone through the court system. We're still there. We're just in a better position because we've moved them from sitting in the land of the lost to the petition phase. Now all that has to happen is service. And as that service starts to roll in, the forfeiture money will come back, that account will start to increase. And Skip has always made his decision based upon what we have in that particular account. And when I said we take our expenses out, I kind of misspoke there, because the drug task force in reality operates off of 3 accounts. We operate off an asset forfeiture account where that money can only be used in the enforcement of drug investigations. No other way. That's audited by the Attorney General's office, and any mistake on that part. But that would include officers' reimbursement, a portion of the salary. Then we have our Attorney General account, and that's our operating expense account, where the only thing that I can authorize payment for is officer overtime back to the department. So if Troy McNair would work 3 hours of overtime tomorrow, for example, he would submit an overtime reimbursement form, and that would go back to Lower Allen Township to cover those costs instead of you eating them. And then the only other thing I can use the Attorney General account for is equipment and the purchase of drugs. So I'm really limited to one account where I can look to reimburse municipalities back. I do agree that it was 30,000 one year, and I apologize. I had it in front of me. I must have left it sit out in my car. I would suspect that in all my conversations with Skip, if he has that money, he's going to make you as whole as he possibly can, knowing that we have to pay the other jurisdictions in addition to the same amount. I hope that answers your question, Thomas.
No, and I appreciate it, Chief. And again, I don't want to sound like I don't support the effort or the goals, because I 1000% do. It's the reason why Detective McNair is still there, because as the Board of Commissioners and our public safety folks, we buy into the need for cooperation among municipalities. And we understand that as one of the first-class townships, we might kind of bear the burden a little more than the smaller municipalities for that. So I appreciate the insight and the feedback. Certainly right now there's, we like getting the updates and we know there's benefit to us. Down the road though, there might be a point of diminishing returns where if we don't get the buy-in from the other municipalities or from the county, I mean, in my mind, the county itself, if you want to have a county task force asking us to detail an officer and pay the entire salary and benefits while not having him work at all for us, that to me, the county should be stepping in. And that's a conversation that the Board of Commissioners should be stepping in and allocating money in their budget for the task force, even more so, to the point that we're not outputting as much. It's just a lot to ask for us as one of only 3 out of how many municipalities in the county. And it's just a lot to ask for our taxpayers to keep footing the bill when every other municipality gets the benefit of the task force without buying in. So to whatever extent you're able to get other municipalities to buy in, that's excellent. I'll certainly vote to keep the technical merit detailed as long as it makes sense for our taxpayers. But there might be a point down the road if you don't get the buy-in from other municipalities and the county doesn't step up and do its part, because to me it doesn't seem like they are. If this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that we have probably the highest output financially of any municipality in the county for the task force. And if you've got only 3 full-time detailed officers, and good for Mechanicsburg for being one of them as a small borough. But again, just to echo, my concern is that there's not enough buy-in from the other municipalities or the county. And while we'll stay a part of it as long as we can, there might come a point where if we don't get the buy-in, it might not make sense for our taxpayers anymore. So with that, Mr. President, I'll turn it back over to any other commissioners with any questions. And again, thank you for your time. Good luck with the investigations you have and the cases. And we are proud to be a part of the task force and proud to help you tackle some of the big cases you've had. So thank you.
Thomas, if I could just real quickly, and I think what I'll probably start, and what I thank you, by the way, thank you for, I mean, I understand this right where you're at. I serve on a president of a school board here, so I understand when you go to the budget process, the bang for your buck. Trust me, I get everything that you just said to me. And Troy is vital. I think what I'm hearing too, we will make that move. I promise you, because if we don't, I can't operate a unit with part-time people. So I'll do what I need to do to ensure. I'm not saying I'll be successful, but it won't be because I'm not beating doors down. I will tell you on the full-time end, and I think Dave or Leon could address it. I'll probably start keeping track of officers too, because we're not pulling the guy on a full-time basis where he can't go back to the municipality. And I didn't want to mislead anybody. He can go back, and I do believe he does handle, and Leon or Dave can jump in. I do believe he does handle some stuff within Lower Allen, not exclusively with the drug task force.
Kenny, I think it'd be fair to say that he probably 20 to 25% of his time is actually Lower Allen time, where he's working cases for us, processing paperwork for us, working evidence or crime scenes, things like that.
He's doing the Megan's Law piece for us. In addition to that, he's also doing the firearms purchases for felons who cannot possess firearms. So we see those reports come through all the time. And I guess if we're tracking time, my other question would be, and Kenny, I know you're not going to have it top of your head, but those 2 major drug investigations, how much of the task force, aside from Troy, was dedicated to those, and at what cost? Because ultimately, if we handled our own drug investigations, truthfully, commissioners, I'd be coming back to the board and asking for more personnel to handle those drug investigations, because we wouldn't have been able to reach out to the other municipalities for their support and the task force support.
And when I came on board to this board and this discussion came up, the one thing that struck me was that there is some value on the back side, actually on the front side, of having the officer, because if you're saying now that a lot of the investigations are happening in Lower Allen or immediately around Lower Allen, I'm seeing some value in that we are pulling resources, from the drug task force to deal with crime here in Lower Allen. And so I agree with you, Director Hall. There's value there in itself, in that experience is already here. It's kind of centered here in Troy to some degree on the task force, but also if the county and the DA's office wasn't providing the task force, we'd still have the crime, and we'd have to deal with that and have to deal with it somehow here. So, I mean, I always saw the value in it. I agree with Commissioner Kutz that at some point the taxpayers, especially when they, and especially now, I mean, there's a lot more people engaged that weren't engaged even 5 years ago that are asking, where are these big numbers coming from in your budget? And when they see, the cost of an officer between $130,000, $180,000, with benefits, they ask, why are you hiring more? Why did you agree to hire some more? And we've done some hiring in the last few years to meet some service requirements that the public safety, or Director Hall and Captain Crone have asked for, and we've made that commitment to policing here in Lower Allen Township, which in turn already, through mutual aid, I have to believe, helps to cover the surrounding area. So Lower Allen's already making a pretty significant investment in policing in the area. The reason I bring that up, as far as what Commissioner Kutz had talked about, was I remember the discussions between when I was elected and when I came on the board, those couple of months, just viewing this board, having the discussions about the task force, and the question came up, well, if it's just to attack the opioid crisis or the drug crisis, is there just going to be something else that trails behind? Because I think there was a suggestion that, at the very least, if I recall back in, I want to say 2016, 2017, somewhere in there, that it might even be a temporary project, or a temporary demand. And so while I'm all for it, and I believe there's value to it, I think it's wise that we continue to keep our eyes on it and stay close to each other. And if you need help somehow, some of us could go to board meetings with you and perhaps talk to some of the neighboring municipalities and just share our experience, both from a practical standpoint, from what it does to the police department, but also from a budgeting standpoint. We're trying to put together budgets where our big hits are in public safety, and particularly in the human resources of public safety in many cases. So, I think staying close to the vest with the communication will be wise moving forward. I'm for this right now. I believe there's value in it given the circumstances. So, that's all I have to. Commissioner Black, you haven't said anything about this. If you've been waiting, I apologize for holding you up.
I've been sitting here boiling. Captain Crone, because of Troy's involvement, do you believe that we are helping to keep Lower Allen Township more free of drugs?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I believe that we have seen the number of drug deaths in the reports that we get monthly. We've seen that number go down. We're probably having better luck keeping it out of our schools. We're having better luck keeping the drugs, that is. We're having better luck keeping them out of our communities, because when we hear about a $160,000 bust, that puts the other dealers on notice. And I'm not saying that we should drive them to migrate to the townships that don't participate, but they probably aren't going to be real happy about staying in Lower Allen. I voted for this program. I still support it. I think it's a good thing. And I know we have a good cop in Troy.
Let me just say, I would echo that, Commissioner. Let me be maybe more direct with my question for Chief Hassinger and company. These other townships that are the same size and the same clout as Lower Allen Township. Now, they were part of your organization once, and I'm asking, are you getting a feel, any idea of what their commitment will be and how quickly? I'm not suggesting that Lower Allen get out of this at all. I'm just saying, what does it take for them to get back on board?
I think each of these townships, without I'm going to tread lightly here and not hurt my negotiations. I think each township comes at it from a different perspective. One of the townships during the negotiation, the dean was talking about back in, it was 2015, 2016, believed that they were getting 100% officer reimbursement. So there was a miscommunication that I was not a part of, because quite honestly, as Michelle said, that's impossible. We don't generate that type of money, and then we become problematic within the court system, that what we're doing is taking people's property to fund our department. So you have to be very careful on that slope, and especially as they start to migrate through court. The other township I am in negotiations with, and I am optimistically hopeful that as we get through this in the next month or two in this COVID and break into the summer, that they will have an officer back full time. There were two reasons. One, their officer got promoted and they did not feel comfortable with any of their newer officers bringing them into the task force, taking away the initial on-the-job learning supervision of being a patrol officer. I think we've hit that threshold that we're going to go back and revisit that particular township and ask for them to reinstate a full-time officer. And I'm confident as we move forward here, that between Skip, Michelle, and I, and Dan, we're going to figure out a way that we can have a discussion with the commissioners. And because I agree with you, there should be county funding into that. I'm never going to say there shouldn't be. It should not be on the back. And I understand where everybody's position is. And just so I don't forget to answer the question that Dave asked me, and I do have it here, 466 hours times 3 officers in surveillance on the West Shore, Lower Allen Township area last year. And that includes 141 search warrant drug assists that were either in your township or bordered your township on all 3 sides, is what we did in a COVID year.
Impressive.
Chief, thanks for that. Thanks for that info. Is that something that can be continuously made available to us when you have it? Maybe just for Dave or Leon to pass along as a, we're happy to keep that confidential, but it'd be great to get that update, that perspective on it.
Yes, we do a running tally, and I got away from that a little bit just because we got caught up in some other administrative things. We were doing we do a running tally every month. Officers keep a, and Dave has that, and I think he does. If he doesn't, I'll forward it to you, Dave, and you can share what I'm talking about, the stat sheet with the supervisors and people. But we do a running tally. Each officer does a stat sheet, which includes anywhere from court hours to overdose death investigation hours to what drugs they buy, how much. And then every month it just keeps accumulating until we get a year-end tally. So I don't know if you would like that on a quarterly basis. I certainly can make it available to you. It's not top secret. It doesn't have names in it, and you're welcome to that information.
Awesome. Yeah, Chief, whenever you have it, it's fine. It doesn't need to be added responsibility to you, just whenever you tally it, and would ordinarily share it with Director Hall or Captain Crone. And let me just clarify, if the program came forward today, I would vote for it. I would still support it. I am still supporting Detective McNair being there. I 1000% see the value in it for our township and our taxpayers. My point was simply just that it'd be nice to get some other buy-in from other places.
I agree.
Not to say that you don't have our complete support, because I think what you're hearing from the board is we all support the mission and the goal. And I 100% believe that our township's safer because of it, which is why we've supported the continued investment. So I just want you to make sure you know, and the other commissioners know that where I'm coming from, but I'm still 100% behind it. Just wanted to see if there was any other buy-in or anything available from other municipalities would be great, but I absolutely see the value for our taxpayers, and I'll continue to support it.
And I do appreciate that. And I did hear you, and trust me, I knew where you were coming from. There's no misunderstanding. You know, East Pennsboro, Lower Allen, and Mechanicsburg have been at the forefront since I've been here since 2016, taking the lead. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to get the other buy-in. It is my goal. I understand it completely, especially the questions you're asking this evening. They're legitimate from your position representing the taxpayers. Every one of your questions are legitimate, and your concerns are the same. They're legitimate.
Ken, Can you just explain again how many of the investigations and cases or busts, I guess, somehow statistically are actually happening in or directly around Lower Allen? You started off with that, and that was actually an interesting piece of information.
I will say that if I had to add up every one of our investigations, which would include confidential informants, overdose deaths, drug buys and search warrants and surveillance, I am confident that 95+% of our investigations currently reside in and around Lower Allen. That would include from Enolo to Mechanicsburg to the West Shore Department to Lower Allen and to Upper Allen. That geographical area is where we spend all our time at. I know I'm on a public meeting, but I can't tell you the last time we weren't in the lower part of the county, maybe 3 times the entire year last year, just because I find it necessary to keep the full-time people that's been committed to me as much as possible in their geographical area to make the biggest impact. So I'm not sending them to Shippensburg and you're paying for Troy McNair to do drug investigations there. We have other assets that does that outside of the task force. We're keeping them right there.
Right. So what I'm hearing right now is that in this time and space, at least in 2020, 21, we're actually getting a pretty good deal.
Well, again, I can't argue with Thomas there.
Just don't send us a bill.
No, I can't argue with Thomas, so I don't want to come across that way. I think what you're getting, look, we're not making you equal. It's never going to be that way. But what you are getting is drug enforcement by the other municipalities, including the part-time people that are committing themselves either to Lower Allen Township or geographically around Lower Allen Township. Now, I would love to tell you the impact that on the reduction of shoplifting, to the reduction of domestic and that stuff. I can't quantitatively do that because I can't see what our impact is other than to know after 35 years, we have an impact when we take people out of a neighborhood. And there was one just here in Lower Allen, it was a nuisance house. It wasn't a big trafficker, but for the neighbors, it was significant to them that we've got rid of that person because they were the ones that were having the foot traffic in and out, the garbage and the weeds and that. And I wish I knew the street name off the top of my head, but because somebody on the board would know the house I'm talking about. I mean, it looked like it come out of inner Philadelphia.
That would be the one you were getting the phone calls about.
I have a hunch. I have a hunch.
If I can echo just what Kenny said, I just want to make sure I don't lose this thought because and I should have introduced myself when I first came on. So I do all of the drug task force cases for the DA's office, and I handle all of the drug asset forfeitures. So, and I've been on in this role for a little more than a year. So I could say, was echoing what Chief Hassinger said, just from looking at my office and all my files, a really high percentage of them are, for all of them, I would say pretty much are coming from those 3 municipalities, but a lot have some nexus to Lower Allen. So I think echoing what Kenny said, it's not as if some of the other parts of the county that don't have a full-time guy are getting the same bang for their buck as Lower Allen. Lower Allen's getting a ton of people. We're getting people off the streets. We're getting drugs off the streets. We're getting overdose deaths investigated. So I really think that the contribution, and as they said, and I should have mentioned this when I first spoke, Troy McNair is phenomenal. I just can't imagine the task force without him in his full-time role, especially for his experience. He brings so much of that to the table, and he's been excellent to work with. But I really, I could look through all the files in my office right now, and there's a Lower Allen connection to so much of this that we just wouldn't have if we didn't have Troy on as full-time. So, and as Kenny said, we're doing what we can to push those forfeitures and push, these cases so we can keep Lower Allen safer and hopefully get, some money back in on the back end.
Okay. Well, we should probably start to wrap this up, but I'll leave it up to the commissioners if they want to say anything else, but I'll just say it's probably wise at this point if, let's see, I would say maybe in the fall, we just revisit a little bit, not necessarily to put a measurement in, but just to kind of see where you're at with the forfeitures, where that process might start to go. And I'm sure we'll get the reports from our folks as well. So
I'm more than willing to meet anytime that you want to meet. I would make one suggestion, and I think we did this the last time. I can probably give you a clear, crisp answer if we were in executive session, just because it is personnel matter related. And I think, because I'm kind of dancing around some of these issues, and I apologize, but I'm more of a direct type of person so that you can hear it and know what the struggles are on the personnel end. And I believe that probably, I know you have your solicitor, for us, it would be an executive session.
yeah, so why don't we just tentatively at this point, sometime look into the late part of the summer, early fall, maybe we'll just get together in a meeting and perhaps executive session.
That'll work perfect, because I'll have a better idea how the asset forfeiture comes through. And I'm hoping and I'm confident that we'll get some through that we'll be able to do a supplemental check to at least match what we did in the prior years. We're not satisfied with that 15, and Skip has said he'll make it whole. He's told me that.
Well, that would be terrific. So,
Mr. President, could I ask one more question of Chief Hassinger? Chief Hassinger, are you talking to municipalities on the West Shore that border the river about participation?
You cut out, sir.
Are you talking to the municipalities in Cumberland County that border the river on the West Shore?
We are in direct communication with 2 municipalities that would be considered, I guess, that your geographical area. I am not in communication with, for example, West Shore Regional. They provide 2 part-time officers, and there was never a buy-in, to my knowledge, on the initial setup. But I am with 2 other municipalities.
Good.
all right. Commissioners, any other questions or comments for these folks? All right. Well, Ken, Daniel, I think Michelle left us at this point. Thank you for coming in and updating us, and look forward to seeing you in the future. And thanks so much for all your work. And
now, truly, the thanks goes to you guys as a whole. I mean, because we can't function without the support that's coming out of your township. I mean, obviously we would do what we have to do to get by, but it would hurt us. It would significantly.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you,
guys.
yeah. All right, commissioners and staff, we're going to move on.
Mr. President, did you miss the?
I failed to grab the minutes and approve those near the beginning of the meeting. So in our February 22nd, 2021 meeting, or our meeting minutes from February 22nd, we received the meetings minutes in our packets this past week. If there's no changes or comments to the minutes, I'd be seeking a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the February 22nd minutes by Commissioner Black and a second from Commissioner Shin. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. To the best of my knowledge, Commissioner Holtzman has not joined us. Next on our agenda is audience participation. Is there anyone here this evening joining us, obviously via Zoom or telephone, that would like to participate on any item on our agenda, make comment of any item currently on our agenda? And if you do, just let our manager, Tom Verneau, know via the chat box. And he'll let us know here in a second if you raise, I guess it's a raise your hand or notify him.
Yeah, Mr. President, we do have one comment from one of our YouTube viewers who actually is on the Zoom call. He has joined the Zoom call during the discussion on the drug task force, but he's having an issue with his mic. So I think I have his permission to share his comment from YouTube. This is Mr. Joseph Schwartz of 1706 Letchworth Road. He says, I think the benefit of this program, meaning the drug task force, isn't in the money seized, but in getting drugs off the streets. Law Law enforcement is an investment, not a revenue stream.
Totally agree.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Schwartz. I think most of us would agree on that, or all of us. Is there any other participation that anyone would like to request regarding any item on our agenda? Okay, yes, hearing none at this point, we'll come back to it. If there is, just let us know. Also for those that are joining us from the public, if you're looking to speak on any issue regarding the township, any business pertinent to the township, there'll be a point later on in the agenda that you can do so. We'll move on to under your president. I'd be looking for a motion to approve the check register of February 26, 2021 in the amount of $106,155.29.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next, I'd be looking for a motion to adopt resolution 2021-R-09, hiring Heather A. Dowden as administrative assistant / event planner for the Public Works Department effective March 22nd, 2021. This is a replacement, folks. It's not an additional hire.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Kutz. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next on our agenda is the appoint. If there's any business pertinent to the township, if you're joining us in the public, feel free to let the manager know if there's something you would like to discuss, or anyone else joining us this evening.
President, I believe we had item 7C, you might have skipped that.
Oh, I put a check mark on it. Thank you. Back to under your president, number 7C. This is for discussion of possible action awarding a contract for the Moreland Basin retrofit project. This is the bid openings that we took in the last meeting. My apologies, folks.
Mr. President, I move to award a contract to All Star Ecology LLC in the amount of $123,364.62 for the Moreland Basin retrofit project.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Shin. Is there any further discussion or comments on this contract award?
Commissioners, I will say that Rebecca Davis is on the call, as is our both engineers, Dan Flint, Brad McCullough, in case you had any questions for them about this.
Commissioners?
I don't.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thanks again for bringing me back to it. Now we'll go on to audience participation. If there's anyone joining us this evening that has any business pertinent to the township you'd like to bring up or discuss, now would be a good time, and we'll 15 minutes. Just let our manager know, Tom Verneau, through the chat box, and he will get you aligned to us. Looking pretty empty. All right. So if you decide you want to bring something up, let us know. We'll come back to it later in the agenda. No problem. Under our township engineer, Dan or Brad, who's handling this evening?
I'm going to be handling these
All right.
this evening for us. So we got two items up for discussion and possible action tonight. First item is 9A on the agenda and would be to approve the preliminary street paving list for the 2022 street paving project. This list that was provided in your memo was drafted with the Public Works Department and includes streets identified during the biannual street inspection as exhibiting high levels of distress. The list consists of portions of Highland Estates, Highland Park, in Allendale, along with a couple other roads that are kind of away from neighborhoods such as Beaver Road and Woodland Street. One item I'd like to highlight from the memo would be approval of this list doesn't obligate the township to expend any funds, but establishes the planned project so we can go ahead and notify utility providers at least a year in advance of any construction so they can get in there and make any modifications necessary before we go ahead and pave. There's also work that needs to be done on the township side. So approval now will allow for planning, design, and construction of those items. So with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know Dan's available as well.
Okay. Well, thanks, Brad, for bringing that out. I have a question, and I guess it's just to confirm something I believe I already know, and Director Hall, or excuse me, Director Grove or Tom Bruneau, when these, and I guess Director Flint and Brad can chime in too, I'm sure. When these when the lists are starting to be compiled, they're all within the parameters of the funds we would have available that come from the liquid fuels money or something thereof, right? Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so these when this list gets put together, the monies are directly, we're a pass through essentially to the project for liquid fuels money that comes into the township. It's not taxpayer money, correct?
Yes, it's shared revenue from the state.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We collect this revenue from the state every year, but we don't do paving projects every year because we do them every other year, so we can get more done and get more bang for our buck getting more done at one time. So we'll take 2 years worth of revenues and pave a whole bunch of streets at once, and it saves us mobilization costs and certain other costs. So we get more street frontage footage.
Commissioner Kutz, did you have something?
I'm just prepared to make a motion at the appropriate time.
Well, that's all I had. Anyone else have any questions regarding the list?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
In that case, Mr. President, I will move to approve the preliminary street paving list for the 2022 street paving project.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz, a second from Commissioner Shin. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 9B on the agenda.
If I can chime in real quick, I know Beaver Road is slated on there, and this might be a good discussion item down the road that maybe the engineers would want to take a look at. I know residents there have been dealing with issues of people coming from Cedar Run Apartments using that as a cut through and flying through that road. It's been an issue for the last 2 years. I'm wondering if we could have discussion about addressing that. I know we've talked about it in the past about what possible things we could do, but just noting, since it is on the list, they're going to get a nice brand new paved road, which I know they're in desperate need of. I think that might exacerbate the problem. So it might be worthwhile to discuss a potential solution to that issue as well at some point.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, Brad.
All right, moving on to 9B on the agenda, which deals with reviewing the procedure for a revised subdivision plan for 1229 Ross Moyne Road. And we can pull it up on the tax mapper if we need, but a little background on this item is this was an approved plan as SLD docket number 2020/02. And it was a minor subdivision plan for Richard and Linda Hammond for the property located at 1229 Ross Moyne Road. The plan was approved by the board in April of last year and recorded in August. And then the design professional has notified the township recently that while the new deed descriptions were being drafted, errors were discovered in the boundary information. the meets and bounds shown on the plan when they subdivide it. Yeah. Thanks, Dan, for pulling that up. But because the previous plan has already been recorded, a new plan must be approved by the board and recorded again, basically. So due to the minor nature of these revisions and no design changes to the overall plan, the applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement contained in section 192-39F, which is a review by the Planning Commission.
Brad, has anyone looked at the new plan?
They have not sent us the plan yet, but Dan and I both spoke with them, and they assured us that it's just errors in the meets and bounds that are shown.
So
I think,
is there going to be a new plan or not?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we expect that new plan next week, I believe.
All right, but it'll still be reviewed by staff.
Yes.
For the sake of disclosure, I want to tell you that my firm was involved with this. We're the ones who discovered the errors, and therefore I will not comment unless the solicitor says I can.
All right, so the board is not going to look at it, but staff has. Is that what I hear?
Correct. Staff will look at it, and the board will ultimately have to approve it.
Yeah, but
This is more of a
we're
waiver.
approving it blind, in other words.
I guess tonight would just be approving the waiver to kind of bypass the Planning Commission review. But yeah, staff will review it, and then you'll vote on the approval ultimately once we get the plan in hand.
But if it doesn't go through the Planning Commission, for instance, many times I rely on Commissioner Kutz to have been at the Planning Commission and seen something maybe the full board is not going to view, but that won't even happen. So is the Board of Commissioners ever going to see the new plan?
Commissioner Shin, yes, you would see the plan the same way you always do. The only thing they're asking for is that it would not go through the Planning Commission first.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
And I'm understanding that there's really not a need, in your opinion, Brad or Dan, to have this go through the Planning Commission. And then once it comes to us, it'll be presented like any other plans are. And then we would just have the opportunity to ask questions and, of course, we'll take a vote on it. Correct?
Correct.
How soon do you think that will happen?
Go ahead.
What do you think the time frame will be on that?
I think they're trying to get us the plan by the 19th, and the vote would be the following meeting, which I believe is the 22nd.
22. Okay, so possibly at our next meeting.
Possibly, yeah.
Likely. Okay. So commissioners, it sounds like we're looking for a motion, if anyone's so inclined, to offer the waiver on the Planning Commission, to skip the Planning Commission in the process.
I would make that motion, Mr. President.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Kutz, correct?
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then I believe Commissioner Black, are you abstaining?
I am.
Okay, I have that carried 3-0.
3-0
with one
301.
abstention. Got it. All right. All right, next, Community and Economic Development.
Aaron, would you like me to do both items?
Yes, please.
Okay, good evening, Commissioners. The first item under Community Development is renewal of the contract with Approved Code Services. They do our Uniform Construction Code, Commercial Plan Review and Inspection Services on an as-needed basis. We've been using them since August of last year. We had a 6-month contract, which is expiring. We are very satisfied with their customer service, both to us and to our permit customers. We wish to continue. There was a draft or a proposed agreement that has already been signed by Irv Spoonhauer president of the company. It would be a one-year extension of the existing agreement at the same per hour and per task costs. Again, we use them on an as-needed basis. So when we have in-house staff capable of doing commercial work and with the time available to do it, we do it in-house. But the predominant amount of the plan review and inspection is being done by approved codes. We would definitely recommend entering into this contract to extend for 1 year. Are there any questions?
Yes, John. We're advertising for a codes official now, correct?
Correct. You authorized that at your last meeting. The advertisement is being circulated. We have high hopes, but not as high expectations that we'll get a high quality candidate in the short future. We hope we do. But what I'm hearing from my peers across the state is some municipalities that are seeking a moderately highly qualified candidate are getting a dearth of candidates. So if we are fortunate to find some good applicants and you would choose to hire one, there would be a lot of work that approved codes doesn't do, such as zoning, administration, and enforcement that person would do, and customer counter service. So approved codes is going to be a vital part of our Uniform Construction Code program, regardless of whether we hire a construction code official or not. I will say that hiring one should allow us to significantly diminish how much we rely on approved codes, but they're there on an as-needed basis.
Thank you, John. You answered my question.
Any other questions? All right, commissioners, I believe they're looking for some action this evening to approve this contract renewal. So I'd be looking for a motion if someone's so inclined.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kutz. I have a second from Commissioner Black. I think he got you on that one, Rick.
That's right. Early bird gets the worm.
Yeah. Any further discussion on this? And I'll just say I appreciate the, well, I mean, obviously this is what they gave you, but I appreciate that you guys are keeping, your eyes open and making sure that we have inspections covered into the future here. And it sounds like you have a good working relationship with these folks. And I'm surprised that there's, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised, but I guess I'm a little shocked, I suppose, that there's not a whole lot of candidates you can feel confident in right now. Like, that we'd be concerned that we wouldn't be able to hire someone maybe in the future to get this position filled.
Mr. President and staff, how long has the our posting for this candidate been circulated?
I think it's only been out a week.
Okay.
Okay. That's right.
There was a study done by the International Code Council in 2014, which indicated that a huge percentage of the workforce is comprised of people like me that are nearing retirement, and we're not seeing the influx of young people or even middle-aged people coming into the field. And so that's why I made the comment. The construction industry is also facing difficulty in finding qualified tradesmen or tradespersons. So typically when they get to a certain point, they migrate to codes administration rather than construction. And that's not happening either.
Right. So, yeah, I'm going to call for the question on this so we don't get too far away from approving this. But I have another question as well. So all in favor of approving this contract renewal? All.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. John, so I mean, I guess the possibility looking down the road, if it doesn't seem like there's a pool of people coming up through the ranks, so to speak, I would imagine there's many, I guess, parts of government or wherever else that might be lacking people going to college for this sort of thing right now or coming out of college with the interest in it. is it worth taking a look at maybe where we would be structurally with this type of organization in 10 years?
With a third party.
Well, I'm just not necessarily the third party. I'm just saying, is it worth taking a look at the possibility that we're not going to be able to easily fill zoning and code enforcement roles as full-time employees, and that there's a trend perhaps that there'd be more of a demand for off-site services?
Well, that is certainly a strategic review or a contingency planning aspect that we could look at. I would say that if we are going to have trouble getting candidates, so are third-party agencies. It's a industry-wide trend. I have peers who run third-party agencies who are having difficulty attracting and retaining people. My thought is, over a period of years, as people like me retire, there'll be more recognition of the demand and more people will enter the field. I'm more positive than negative about it. It's just a matter of that there isn't a large pool of candidates right now. That's all I'm saying.
I recently saw a prototype police, I think it was a police dog robot in New York City. Is there any talk about drones on the construction sites?
Yes, you could use drones to inspect cell towers and tall structures.
Got it.
I was going to recommend that we offer cloning from John before he gets too far away from us. And
I think my parts are too old to clone.
okay.
All right, John, looks like you have some zoning news for us.
Yes, Commissioners, one last item. This is my zoning hearing board report. We had no old business. The hearing board will meet for the first time in 2021 on March 18. It's a public meeting to reorganize, and there'll be a public hearing to hear docket 2021-01. It's an application filed by Goodall Pools on behalf of the property owner at 3410 Canyon Creek. That is a street in the High Meadow development. It's one of the newer streets that has public sewer but does not have public water. Consequently, it's zoned R3 and the impervious coverage lot limit is 30%. That's to accommodate for groundwater recharge, and the subdivision is located on an area mapped as having poor yield for wells. So that's the genesis of why we have the low limit on lot coverage. And I think we discussed this several months back when we had a similar application also on Canyon Creek. This is a variance request. The pool and pool patio that would be constructed would push the property over the 30% limit. The applicant is proposing to install stormwater mitigation features. Those features would dial it back so that the net result at the end of the construction project would be equal to what it is now. So if the lot's about 27-28% impervious now, it'll be maybe 36-37% when the project's done. But with a stormwater management BMP in place, that's best management practice for anyone who's not tuned into stormwater jargon, then it'll have a net effect of 0. So that's appears to be the track that the applicant is taking. Staff reviewed this and does not see a need for the solicitor to participate. However, staff at the hearing will ask the hearing board that if they're inclined to grant the request, they condition it upon the applicant obtaining the stormwater permit approval, the installation and inspection approval for the stormwater mitigation feature. I checked with our stormwater program manager, Becky Davis, and she indicated she has reviewed the design and it is approvable. It is not approved yet, but it's approvable.
John, I have to admit, I'm not really sure where Canyon Creek is. Can you help me?
Okay, if you go into the High Meadow development, left turn as you're heading out to Community Park, the second entrance, you go in there and the road that overlooks the creek and the floodplain, that's Canyon Creek. It is surrounded by some green common areas.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Okay,
I now know. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners, on the zoning hearing report from John? Okay. Moving on.
Commissioner Vallone, I also note that my memo included a synopsis of what occurred with the appeals of the global video sign issue, and I'll just stop right there because there is an executive session item for that discussion. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. John. Appreciate it. Tom, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. The first item I have to bring before you tonight is resignation of Matthew Green, who was one of our maintenance specialists in the Public Works Department. Unfortunately, I don't have a resignation letter for the board, as his last day he left with a text message. So what I'm asking is that the board approve staff to begin advertising for a replacement maintenance specialist to replace Matthew Green.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion from Commissioner Shin, a second from Commissioner Black. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. The second item I have is it doesn't need any action tonight. It's more of a, I guess, a reminder, and it could be discussed in executive session later on if you choose to. But we have not yet appointed an alternate representative to the West Shore Recreation Board. I had sent out an email to the commissioners earlier, I think it was last week, and I know Commissioner Black and I had exchanged some thoughts on that, and he may wish to mention it now or mention it in executive session on the person he has in mind.
Thank you, Tom. We recently advertised for a representative to our Township Recreation Board, and we received what I thought were 2 good resumes. And the other one, as far as I know, is still available. And that is Beth Ann McCoy. If anybody would like to consider that, or if you'd like to discuss it in an executive session, that's fine. I'm just suggesting that I think she's worth considering.
I think that's a good suggestion, and we're looking for the alternate. Ed, you're the rep, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific idea. Ed, are they having meetings via Zoom, or have they been meeting in person?
No, we're having meetings in person.
And okay, and they've been having them regularly?
They didn't the last time. I think it was just the last meeting, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't have any abundance of business to go over.
Okay.
So, but the meetings have been held. They've spaced everybody out. We're in a big room and we have a lot of space around us. So we're doing them face to face.
Okay. Great. In the meantime, Ed, if you can't make a meeting and you feel free to give me a call. If I have some advance notice, I'll be happy to go to one. I might even go to one with you here in the near future.
You're welcome. That's for sure.
That'd be kind of, I've never been to one. I'd like to go to one. So great.
So are we going to encourage management to reach out to Ms. McCoy and see what she thinks of this?
Thank you, Mr. Shin. That was my next question.
I don't think we have to take official action, but I think that the consensus would be good on that. Commissioner Kutz, you good with that plan?
Yeah, I was going to jump in. I think that's a great idea, Ed. Excellent. So I'm good with that.
Okay, I will reach out to her then and see if she will accept that.
And then we can vote on it.
Appointment, and then I'll bring it back to the board, probably a next meeting for you.
Terrific.
Vote.
Super.
Finally, what I have tonight is we have some years of service recognitions coming up. 3 of them to be exact, which we will have the actual documents for the board next meeting. Hopefully these folks, I don't know if we'll be meeting in person or via, virtually again, but if we're on virtual, hopefully they can join us. Actually have, all three are EMTs. Amy Nye and Joseph Peters are both full-time EMT twos. Amy's been with us 15 years and so does Joe. And the third person is Scott McClintock, who is a part-time EMT one who's been around for 20 years. So,
Wow.
I see Mr. Devon is on the call right now. If he has any comments he would like to make on these individuals.
You have these for the next meeting, Tom?
Yeah, that's when the the formal documents, the awards and things like that will be ready for you. Hopefully they'll be able to there to accept them.
Good. All right. Well, is that all you had, Tom?
That's all I have.
All right. All right, we'll go to commissioner reports, and just a reminder, we are going to go into executive session. I'll ask the solicitor now, will we be expecting us to consider some action in the executive session?
Yes, please, Mr. President. So please recess only because you will need to come back and give me some direction.
Okay, great. All right, we'll start tonight with Mr. Eby.
Nothing further tonight. Thank you very much.
Captain Crone.
There I am. Nothing this evening. Thank you for hearing out Chief Hassinger and the rest there. Good questions and appreciate the support.
You bet. Tina Thomas.
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Hall.
I echo what the captain said. I thank you for your indulgence and listening to Kenny and the deputy DA's information. And I reached out to Kenny by email while I was offline here, and we're going to get that stat sheet, and I'll make sure that gets in a board packet for you to look at. And we'll look at planning on bringing them back sometime in the fall once the forfeiture piece is arranged and court's back in session.
That would be great. And I think the information being shared as much as possible helps, especially if we're being asked, where are we spending the money? And I think it helps, but thanks for staying on it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. Aaron Trone.
Hi, good evening. I have a couple items tonight. Firstly, I wanted to let you know that Lower Allen staff has created a webpage for Lower Allen Commons. It has the condo plan and the land development plans for the site. So that includes the hotel and Unit 3. It also has some renderings of the 17,300 square foot building on Unit 3. We awarded the site contract to York Excavating, and they are supposed to mobilize on the site next week. So as equipment arrives, undoubtedly you will start to get more questions. And so if you receive questions, feel free to point our resident to that webpage so they can look at the plans for themselves. And I also want to let you know that Cumberland County through CADIC will be issuing some funding for hospitality businesses to help with COVID relief. This will help primarily with restaurants that have been hurt really hard in the last year. The guidelines was posted on the CADIC and probably the Cumberland County website on the 15th. And I'll make sure to reach out to some of our restaurants and make sure that they're aware that that is available to them.
Great.
Great. Thank you, Aaron.
Sure.
Brad McCullough.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to give a quick update on the Fun Fort reconstruction project at Lower Allen Community Park. Staff from the Public Works Department completed demolition of the existing playground equipment late last week, and the contractor, who's Kinsley Construction, is prepared to take the site later this week to begin construction. So that's something to look forward to. The scheduled completion date is June 30th, and yeah, we're all looking forward to the finished product.
Great. Brad, thank you. And it was good to hear from you tonight. I appreciate your work.
Yep, thank you.
Hope Dan's still treating you okay in that office.
He is. He booted me out though for this meeting. I'm in the
You're in a cubby.
a conference room.
Oh, you're in a cubby. What is this, Harry Potter? Tony, Deven.
Just got some good news, I think, on the COVID front. We're seeing some numbers start to trend downward with everybody else. So while we're still seeing them daily, they're not occupying as bad as it was in December and January. So we're seeing some good movement there and some positive stuff on the facilities. Appreciate your support, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Well, thank you for your work. Dan Flint.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Steve Miner.
Nothing for public session, Mr. President.
Okay. Rick Grove.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Okay. Tom.
Just one thing. We have back in August, a young man who had performed his Eagle project for Lower Allen Township by building kiosks and little libraries in several township parks, received his Eagle Award back in August. But due to COVID, they postponed his Court of Honor. And the other day I received an invitation in the mail. Mr. Nathan Abdul Malak will be receiving his Court of Honor will be held on Saturday, April the 17th at 1 p.m. at the Lisburn Community Fire Company. I believe we've already done a resolution for him. I have to look back and see if we presented it to him. I don't know if we sent it to him or what we did, but if any of the commissioners would like to attend the Court of Honor to, just present our thanks to the young man. You can even give him another copy of the resolution if you want to have a presentation at the court.
Yeah, since they're going to do it in person at the fire company, I mean, I would like to go down and invite any of the other commissioners or any staff, for all that matter, to join me.
I would be glad to go if we could get the last name phonetically printed for us so that we're not embarrassed in saying,
Abdul Malik.
There you go.
But I will send a copy of the invitation out.
Okay.
I'll go along with you, Mr. President.
Okay. Yeah, just send it all out to us, and then if you'll just let Tom know if you're going to attend. And I mean, I know it's COVID, but I think if they're going to do it there, they're going to be responsible. I think we could all go and be responsible and honor this young man if we all wanted to go. So I'm going to plan on going. It sounds like Commissioner Shin's going to go.
Yeah, I can do that.
If Ed or Commissioner Cook, you guys want to go too, that'd be great. It's up to you. All right. That it. All right. Josh Nagy, you stuck with us. Do you have anything for us, sir?
Nothing at this time, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right. All right. Commissioner Shin.
Yes, I have. I was going through my files and I discovered a memo from Director Hall dated October 26, 2020, having to do with looking for a request for approval to begin a formal discussion with Sharmanstown Borough to provide ALS, BLS, EMS services. I just wondered if anything happened there, Dave.
I did not. Tony and I actually met with a couple members of the board, and we've not heard back since that meeting. And that meeting was several.
I get it. You're sounding like you're stroking out, sir. I get it. Thank you.
Or does he sound like one of those, like a malfunctioning robotic police dog in New York City?
Yeah, it was kind of spooky. Okay. The other thing I had, Mr. President, is the letter from,
Sorry.
the letter from Chairman Griner. I just want to make sure that I understand. When we're looking for the rule of three hiring procedure, and we're going to accept people with and without 120 cert this time. Is that right?
That's right. That's what the memo was to the commission, and they authorized us going forward with what the board had approved. So
okay,
we will be looking for. We'll have a full list of candidates, which we'll see. The test is the written test and physical agility test is March the 27th and 28th, Saturday and Sunday, the end of this month. And any member of the board is welcome. I know Terry Lanker is always there from the commission to witness that event, but we welcome any board member that wants to come and see how it works too.
If you give me that, if you could just email me with that date. I didn't write it down. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But we're not eliminating anyone.
We are not.
Okay, good. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay. Commissioner Black.
Well, first for Rick information, the reason for that, Rick, I understand is because people like Director Hall and so forth were concerned because we were not getting to pick some good candidates because we were insisting on Act 120 being completed. Now we are offering to put them through the Act 120 training.
I think it's a good idea. That came up in negotiations, you might remember. I think it's a good point. Thank you. Thank you.
The only other thing I have is for Captain Devan. Tony, have you heard that the CDC is relaxing restrictions for people that have both COVID shots?
So I have not officially heard that. However, I was reading an article today from the CDC website, and I'll be checking into that because currently the actual guidance is if you've had your shot 2 weeks and not longer than 3 months, you don't have to quarantine for work or anything like that. But there's now a possible issue or ruling by the CDC for non-workforce personnel on that, but we haven't seen anything official yet. That's what we're hearing.
Okay,
so
kind enough to keep us up to date on that, Tony?
I sure will.
Thank you. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kutz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, I really enjoyed getting all the information we got from the County Drug Task Force tonight. Director and Captain, thanks for your diligence as well. I'll be looking forward to getting the data when they have it. That is so crucially important to me personally when thinking about our involvement here, knowing what an impact it is making. Without that information, it's hard to sit and just look at numbers on a page and try and make an informed decision. So I certainly appreciated your insight at budget time, and I appreciated it tonight. I 100% agree. The investment is worthwhile to keeping drugs off the streets. And I don't view it as a revenue stream for us. I, again, fully support the investment for our community and the difference that it makes. The revenue is an added bonus that we can get from the forfeiture funds, but just to be clear, that I am so grateful for Detective McNair's work and the County Drug Task Force bringing the other officers from across the county to help with Lower Allen Township investigation. So keep up the great work. We're always happy to get drugs off the street. That's tremendous news. And I was very excited to hear about all the work that they've done and all the hours they've put in to keep our township safe. And that's obviously our first and foremost responsibility as commissioners, is to keep our residents safe. So I will be supporting that task force and its endeavors to do that. So thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Kutz, thank you. Did I miss anybody? Okay. I'll allow a couple things. Commissioner Kutz, I'll start with you. If I embarrass you, I hope I'm not, but I have to say, from for all to know, Commissioner Kutz and his beautiful new fiance have been engaged. And it's public information, so I mean, you've made it public yourself, but join me in congratulating Thomas and Alan.
Congratulations again.
Congratulations, Thomas.
We wish you well, for
Good
sure.
luck.
Blush, wow.
And then also Director Hall, again, congratulations on your third term serving on the 911 Advisory Board. I mean, that's just great. When you look at our employees and our staff at all levels, the layers in which we can say that our folks and their knowledge are nested throughout not just the area, but in Pennsylvania. I mean, we've had folks, and I'm not going to name them tonight, but they know who they are, that have, vice presidents and presidents of statewide associations. And I know, Tom, throughout your career here, you're very active in I think it's the statewide managers associations. And it's just, Laura Allen really represents the best of people in government. So thank you, Dave, for continuing your dedication, all around what you do. And that means a lot to the residents here, and they don't know it in many cases. The advantages we have of that knowledge that you and other folks in our staff bring back. So thank you. I see all kinds of value on this screen. I see the value that we have in these meetings, and so I just I'm in a good place with where the township is. I think we've had a couple of really good meetings. I do want to start exploring, at the very least, the idea of getting our meetings back in person when that time we believe is right. And I don't want to push it, but I do want to make sure that we serve the public in person. I've gotten comments from some folks asking when that's going to be, and I was mistaken. We haven't been. We wouldn't be the only municipality going back. Some have only been in person and around us. Some aren't. I know Upper Allen has continued to be in person and just have been very safe. I want to err on the side of caution, and I believe, commissioners, it would be a joint decision when we go to do that. But if anyone would like to weigh in, I think, or maybe Tom, you can share with us where you think that might be going down the road for us, and what kind of time frame, based on the numbers that we're currently seeing, where you feel comfortable we be meeting in person again.
Well, meeting in person and opening the building, I think, are two different discussions. I've been actually reached out to our neighbor municipalities today to find out what where their thinking was, because we've been tracking the new COVID cases in Cumberland County, and going back to the number that the governor used back in the summer when he was trying to decide when counties would go from the red phase to the yellow phase. He had the benchmark of 50. Now, I don't know if there's any actual science behind that, why the number 50 was chosen, but I thought, well, keeping with the theme, I would like to wait and see, that the new cases and the average in the 7-day average stayed below 50 for an entire week. That would, I think, indicate that, at least we could do something, either whether open the building on a limited basis or have in-person meetings, kind of like going back to the yellow phase. Our neighbors are not as they don't have a plan. I mean, I think, and that's not to say anything against them. They're mostly in a wait and see mode. Most of them buildings are closed. They are seeing people by appointment. Most of them are still doing virtual meetings. They don't really know when they want to reopen. And I talked to one manager who is they're kind of looking at vaccines as a benchmark. When a substantial portion of their employees get the vaccine, that's when they'll open back up. So As far as in-person meetings go, I think you'll probably be pretty safe in a couple of weeks if the trend keeps going down. Now, we would have to follow the same rules we follow in the yellow phase, so we'd have to keep everybody spread out, wear the masks and do all that. But, opening the building, I don't know. That's still a big question mark. Because as one manager pointed out, if I get infection and wipe out 3 of my staff, that's half of my staff. So that's we're not quite that small, but still, we rely on our folks to deliver services to the residents. And while some of them can work at home, not all of them can.
Yeah. And I'm of the belief that, we have to err on the absolute side of caution for health and safety. My inquiries just, open up the discussion so that, we can start looking at what we might be looking at down the road. It sounds like we might make the assumption, like even in 2 weeks, that we would be on Zoom again, unless maybe there was enough significant information that would lead us to be compelled to meet in person. Commissioners, I would welcome your input if you have any at this time. If not, that's cool. We can just, talk about it in the next 2 weeks again.
Well, I just like what the manager's comments with respect to his exploring, but keeping track of what the science is in Cumberland County. And I think that's a good way to go, Tom. I appreciate that effort. But I'm comfortable with what we see coming down the way. I don't think we're doing a bad job here. It's not ideal, but I think we have mastered the ability to have conversation, discussion, good discussion, and still be able to do it safely. So I'm ready when everybody else is, but I'm not in a hurry.
Okay.
I will keep providing you information. You can take it, digest it, do what you will with it, make recommendations.
Yeah, that would be great. So perhaps a week from today, like a Monday or Tuesday of next week would be a good time for us to just maybe get an update from you. And that way, we can digest it. And if, feel free to throw your opinion in there too, please, because you're in the building every day. And if you feel, you would nudge us to meet in person, if you feel you'd nudge us to not, we do value your opinion on that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're going to also have to start keeping track of vaccinations because we're getting more folks are getting them.
Okay, great.
Tom, are you talking about keeping track of staff vaccinations?
Yes. Who's gotten them?
Is that something? I don't want to put anyone in an uncomfortable position, whatever their position on getting a vaccine is. Is that something that, and Steve, maybe you can chime in on this, is that something that would be acceptable to ask people if they've been vaccinated or not, or perhaps they can volunteer the information? I just wouldn't want to pressure anyone to share their status of a health matter.
No, it wouldn't be mandatory.
And my understanding is that it's, you can't compel the vaccine, but you can encourage it. And some employers are incentivizing that, but obviously I think it's a wise thing to do. But if somebody has medical religious objections, you certainly need to honor their wishes.
Well, again, this is not about getting them vaccines. This is about keeping track of who's been vaccinated. So we get a sense of our, our community around here.
All right. So it looks like we're from here, we'll just look at the data and the information, about a weekly basis. That sounds good. Very good. Well, is there anything else for the good of the order? Well, then I will recess this public meeting to executive session. We're going to get an update on the global video versus Lower Allen Township case, and then we will be back. Thanks.
So anybody who wants to bail bail now. If you want to stay on here, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room during executive session. Then I can bring you back in when we reconvene.
That's a bail, I think.
That's a, yeah, the wave is the
That's a bail wave.
universal bail symbol. Oh, Rick bailed too. Okay. Dean, Rick, Steve, Ed. Okay. I thought Rick Grove was, hold on, let me